All right, so I'm going to start recording, and here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dennis Huang. I'm the Executive Director for the Asian Business Association. On behalf of the association, I want to welcome you guys to another installment of our fun webinars where we're keeping you safe via Zoom. I really want to take a minute and thank our sponsors, Southern California Edison, T-Mobile, US Bank, and Southwest Airlines. And I know some lucky folks may get a Southwest Airline ticket, and Bianca will handle that toward the end of this call, and we'll talk about that as well. Really want to thank everybody for the support. But today we especially want to thank NBCUniversal because we have Aura coming on and join us and being our moderator, and I'll do an introduction for her in just a little bit. I know some of our board directors have been on as well. I know Jim has been on and James, so thank you folks to be on as well. So I don't know if we need to disclose everybody, but we will record this for future hosting. And I need to disclose that to our panelists so you guys know about that. But folks on the call or on this video conference, you can use the chat box to submit some questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. In the case that we do not answer them, staff and myself will notate them, and we will respond back to you well, we will spend time. We'll get back to everybody. That is kind of like our goal is to get back to everybody for those questions that have not been answered. And we'll do our best to respond. But ABA has been working hard because we need to work through this virus. And I think some of you may know we continue to advocate on behalf of small businesses, and especially our CPAs at the very beginning, and got the federal government to delay their income tax filing from April 15th to July 15th. I think lately they're looking at pushing that back even further. Just again, we want to be safe. We also set ahead of a lot of information in regards to PPP, LA Microloan, the SBA. They're getting that information to our members early. And I know some of you may know that we have until the end of this month to file for PPP. But the next step that we have in regarding all this is the solutions part in terms of loan forgiveness. So make sure you guys know about that and understand it. Earlier this week, they did come out with an easy form. It's available on our website. A lot of information we did post on our website. Just go to our homepage, abala.org. There's a button in the first homepage. Just click on it called Solutions, and you'll have all the information there. And of course, leading all this part, we've been trying to train our members, letting them know about the possibility of leading remotely. We had a seminar about that. Also talked about video marketing with Cyberstrategist and Yelp. We had a town hall session with Controller Betty Yee. And also last week, we had a session, how to do business with public agency. Now, I say this to say it'd be kind of cool, all that stuff we're doing, but also to give you the resource because it's all recorded on YouTube. So like and subscribe, is that what they say? Anyways, take a look at our YouTube page. A lot of information is on there as well to digest. I know there's a lot of information. That's why we kind of constantly do these things to help you to work through the virus. This Saturday, I'll need to tell you that we're having a presidential town hall. Yes, the president, it is an election year. It's important we get in front of this as well. This is, in the last 4 years, we did this. So we invited the presidents or the elects to come and speak with the Asian American segment. So Saturday, it will be virtually done. Again, go to our website to get more information. I do know that Joe Biden confirmed, that's the latest news, to be on. He'll be speaking with the group. So get on that. July 8th, we have a session. It's putting the social in social distancing. You guys been on some of our networking kind of events in the past and virtual networking. But my only clue on this one is to tell you that it's going to be hard to escape the fun. So just that as a clue. And real live, we're going to meet in person live on September 21st. Yes, we did get the green light to have our golf tournament. It will happen in Strawberry Farms on Monday, July 21st. So I'll be on the lookout for that. And many of you on the call, we try very hard not to charge folks to be on it. But if you're in the position to make a donation, we welcome the donation to our foundation, Asian Business Center. Just go to asianbusinesscenter.org or anywhere on the website, click on the link, and you can make a small donation. And I thought it'd be fun if you if you donate $1 or $2, because we can use that as ratings. So anything $4 and above, we'll take that as a compliment. So check that out. With that in mind, let me go and start this program in terms of what we're doing today. With this pandemic, many businesses are being forced to make very hard decisions about kind of adopting new technology. And I think some faster than ever. And we need to do this, keep our business afloat. If you want your business to have the best possible chance of working through this virus, you'll need to future-proof it. So today, 3 of our ABA Premium members will share a bit about their companies and how they help their clients to future-proof their business. And to guide us through this program, allow me to introduce to you McCracken-Byrd. Aura is currently the Director of Supplier Diversity at NBCUniversal Media, LLC. Aura is also responsible for the development, implementation, and administration of strategy that increase business opportunities for diverse-owned businesses. And during her time at NBC Comcast, she was also, they became the first media technology company to be inducted to the prestigious $1 billion roundtable. And some of you may not know what a $1 billion roundtable is where companies spend more than $1 billion on minority-owned companies. So congratulations on that. But I also like to say prior to NBC, she led the diversity efforts at AEG, Staples Center, if you guys didn't know. Besides a diehard Trojan, she is, which I think she knows she is. She serves on numerous community-based organizations, advisory council, some on the board, but we like to call her of our own as she, on ABA's advisory council, she serves as our vice chair. Aura, it's my pleasure to turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much. As Dennis mentioned, my name is Aura McCracken-Byrd. I am the Director of Supplier Diversity for NBCUniversal. And for the ABA, I also serve on the advisory board council, specifically as vice chair. To the audience, I want to thank you all for being here today. And to you and your loved ones, I hope you are all staying safe and healthy as we get through these unprecedented times together. Really pleased to be a part of this conversation. It's a very important conversation right now, future-proofing your business, especially as we look ahead as a community and talk about what the path forward looks like, right? So let's get started. We all know that the world has changed. We know the world is changing, right? This has been an incredibly unbelievable year in 2020. Prior to this year, we were already in the midst of an industrial revolution, right? With technological advancements in big data, in AI, in the Internet of Things. And all of this shift is based on hyperconnectivity, right? And it continues to change, and it changes the way we live and work and think and run our businesses every single day. And in order to stay relevant and competitive as a business owner in this ever-changing environment, we have to evolve. And now we're dealing with more change and more uncertainty as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the racial divide and racial injustices that have really bubbled up all over the world. We know that all of these events are converging all at once and really adversely impacting the economy. And you small business owners, you diverse business owners, you're feeling it the hardest. So what do we do? What do you do if you're an entrepreneur, leading a team, running a business, and trying to deliver on your promise to your customers? How do you achieve success through all of this? How do you set yourself up for long-term success so that you do not become obsolete? In preparation for this panel, I took a step back for myself and really wanted to understand and think about what success meant. Oftentimes we see success and we associate it with words like money, power, status, fame. I wanted to find more, another definition. And I looked until I found one, and I found a definition of success that reads, success is doing anything well or excelling at something. doing anything well, or excelling at something. Personally, I think it's great to be successful, but I really think it's even better to ensure that you follow your own distinctive and not always obvious path to success. And this is the success that can truly fulfill you. I really love that definition because it describes our guest speakers today perfectly. Each of our entrepreneurs today has walked their own distinctive and not always obvious path to creating and leading a successful business. And with that, I will introduce our guest speakers, starting with Paul Ling. Paul Ling was born in Hong Kong and raised and educated in Toronto, Canada. He studied computer science and is a self-proclaimed geek. I'm going to tell you, Paul, geeks are cool now. Paul moved to California after university and he never looked back. Paul's company is Team Impact and he opened it in 1998. It is a software development service company. Many of the clients are software companies, usually selling software as a service. And Paul's company operates as a software development and support team with a special focus on applications. Next, I'll introduce Brittany. Brittany is the founder and chief strategist of Hause. Brittany is a visionary creative, marketer, growth expert, and producer. Her career spans television, film, digital marketing, and emotional marketing and product creative. Brittany has a track record of delivering rapid growth. Through Hause, Brittany seeks to reinvent and build upon her earlier success with an exclusive focus on female-led businesses and forward-thinking brands. More to come on that. Our final speaker will be Sanjay Kucheria, CEO of Trinus Group. Sanjay is an entrepreneur and executive with over 25 years of experience, including strategy, general management, and business operations. He is the CEO of Trinus Corporation, a leading provider of technology solutions and services. The company focuses on digital services that cover data analytics, AI, Internet of Things, cloud mobility, and performance management solutions. The firm has locations in the US and in India and serves the private sector companies, nonprofits, and government organizations. Sanjay has a background in computer engineering from the University of Bombay and a master's degree in computer science from the University of Southern California. Fight on, Sanjay. I didn't know that you were a Trojan also. So we'll start with Paul. Paul, each of the panelists will go ahead and start the conversation with their own individual presentations on their business. Paul will go first, I believe, followed by Brittany, and then Sanjay will be our last speaker. And after the presentations, we'll open up to Q&A.
Hey, Paul, make sure we're on mute, okay? Paul, you're muted, so if you can just click on that little button, it'll help us out.
To unmute yourself.
I think he's trying to figure it out.
There we go.
There we go.
Cool.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So I'm so glad to be here today. I've been invited to talk and introduce you to my business, Team Impact. So Team Impact, what do? We're a custom software application development service provider for other corporations. We specialize in B2B systems and enterprise applications, which are typically systems that are more complicated and customized than usually off-the-shelf system that you could potentially get, or a platform that you could actually deploy on, such as Shopify. So we tend to develop those systems that are more specialized than those. So for our clients, we do cloud deployments and support as well for them. We typically target medium-sized type companies and departments who need these type of softwares and who need teams and developers to develop and support them, and they don't necessarily have the faculty or capacity or desire to do it themselves. We have a special focus on application security. We believe that security bugs are the worst bugs. A hackable system is actually worse than no systems at all. So those are our core beliefs, and it happens to align with a lot of our customers. So some general information. I acquired the business back in 1998 during the internet.com boom. Those were crazy days, right? I think back in those days, geeks are not only cool, they're also sexy back then. And I found the company was actually founded by some friends of mine. They actually went ahead and founded Net Zero. Some of you may remember that. That will date you, but you were probably, some of you who remember that would know that they went IPO, then they became very successful. So during those days, the climate was really quite crazy. Companies were spending a lot of money on lavish parties and having crazy over-the-top office space. So, you know, I kind of fell into that whole mentality as well. But over the years after that, you know, reality set in, right? And you guys probably know that there was a bust afterwards. And some 20 years later now, you know, I learned that there's no free lunch. So it just requires a lot of hard work and evolution of the business. So today we're largely offshore, and we have only 2 full-time employees and 3 1099s. 1099s being a little bit of a dirty word these days. I call them business associates. And the lion's share of our staff are actually offshore in the Philippines, 2 management and 23 technical staff. So over the years, what's worked and what's working? I found that establishing long-term relationships with customers and employees are really the most valuable thing that I could do. I am proud to boast that a lot of our customers and employees from back in the early 2000s are still with us today. And truly, they are our best asset, and our customer has become our best advocates. Some industry groups that I belong to, which I really find invaluable. ABA, obviously. And I also belong to this group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. And these are business networking groups. And then these 2, ISSA and OWASP, they're kind of geeky type groups where I get to learn about application security, keep up to speed with the latest hacks and the trends, and also keep up on the latest defenses. So over the last 20 some years, there's been lots of challenges, right? Starting the very first one that I encountered was the .com bust. At that time, when the bust came, basically everything just fell through from IT, right? There's no more, there was just no more business to be had for anything related to IT, anything digital. So we had to pivot. We had to start an offshore operation. I also turned our office space back then, a fancy space that we had, into a semi-incubator for other startups. And as that process, we groomed and nurtured a lot of companies, and some of them turned into some of our long-term customers. So once again, you know, these customers became our best sales agents, best advocate, and we provided financial support for them to keep that relationship. Dealing with the pandemic now, our playbook is the same, right? Any excess labor that we have today, we provide it to our friends and to provide it to our customers that are in need. And I'm lucky to say right now that we're not substantially impacted. We have seen some drop, but you know, we're not in the front line, so we're spared the worst so far. So for a few shares, as I mentioned, you know, building network and building relationship is really the key to our survival and success. They are indeed the most rewarding as well. Getting digitized is also very important. You know, that includes digital marketing, and also digitizing your company's expertise is also crucial. That means, for example, getting information about your company, your expertise, your knowledge into something that is easily easily dispersible to as many people as you can. I think that's a very powerful marketing aspect. Automating processes, documenting processes, that allows you to be more agile, allows you to swap staff in and out, and also allows you to downsize as needed. I've been through many downs and many ups, right? I feel like this is another, although I do understand that, you know, every downturn feels like the apocalypse, and certainly this one feels that way. But I do believe that, you know, things will turn around and we'll get through it. I will stick by my philosophy of treating each customer as my best advocate. Final thought I'll leave with you is beware of hackers. They're really out there in force right now. Some research have indicated that there's been over 300% increase in hacks and scams. So beware of that. If you have a digital system, i.e. like an e-commerce or whatever portal, take extra care and make sure you take preventive measures against hacks. You know, so application security, as I mentioned, is one of our specialty, and we really have a lot of obsessions about it. I have a few demos that I can share with you on how hackers, what their techniques into hacking your sites, and also into tricking you. I can't share them with you at this moment, but I will make these links available through the ABA. And that's all, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Couple things I heard was the power of relationships and the power of networking, and really being able to survive a crisis, right? Because they come and they go. Some are more severe than others, and this probably is the most, at least definitely the most severe that I've experienced in my lifetime. But thank you, Paul. Okay, next we'll move to our next presenter, Brittany. We'll tee up Brittany's presentation.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Just give me a moment while I attempt to share my screen. Uh-oh. Let's see here. Bianca, if you're there, the file that I sent you, is there any way you can present that for me? Let me just share. Thank you so much, Bianca. Great. Paul, you did a great job presenting and talking, going over the questions that were brought up by the team. What I did instead was just share a little bit of my company, and hopefully later on we can answer some of those questions and dealing with the pandemic, etc. But today I wanted to just share some things that we have been doing and what our team has been working on. So our company is actually celebrating 1 year this month. We're probably the youngest agency or the youngest company amongst everyone here. So I am hoping to learn, I'm going to be learning a lot from you. So I'm really happy to be here today. You can move to the second screen. So Good Hause is essentially a digital marketing agency, heavily focusing on digital marketing now, especially during the pandemic. But we partner with clients across many diverse brands, particularly startups and the restaurant industries, with a majority focus on women-owned businesses. So I am Brittany, and I am known as a brand marketer, creative, and I actually spent a majority of my career as a TV producer, having worked across Southeast Asia for a few years, and then across Netflix and a couple of TV stations, where then after about a decade of just being a producer and working in entertainment and television, I really wanted to do something that I felt a little bit more passionate about, which was storytelling. And as a woman working in a predominantly male industry, I really wanted to take my learnings and apply that to brands and businesses that were led by women. So these are just a couple assets that we created, that we started out with to really amplify our mission and our goal. You know, our launch last year, we actually passed out a lot of these information because as a new agency and as someone focusing on women-owned businesses, a lot of people, we often get questions like, what does it mean to be a women-owned business? Can we be an agency with men and maybe still be able to work with you guys? Definitely, we are not excluding men. We wanted to amplify just women voices more. And so majority of our clients are actually predominantly male-owned businesses. However, we wanted to be able to step in to give voices to women, or if there are already women leaders, working more closely with them to amplify their voices, so that way it creates a more even level playing field and diversity across the board. So as of 2018, we saw a drastic change in women-owned businesses, where 42% of businesses were owned by women. We are also the largest voting group in the United States. We saw a lot of businesses being started up by not only women, but minority women. However, we didn't see, especially for me, I didn't see the brand voices and the marketing and digital marketing and growth cater to that. And so I felt like there was a gap for our community. And I felt like with these changes and creating impactful campaigns, women can really garner a lot of loyalty across the consumer base. So we wanted to really amplify their voices, working with women to create these changes. So that's where we saw a large opportunity. Our team is actually women-owned, and we also have a majority group of women that we work with, a group of creative women that we work with. So what we do is we want to hyper-focus on teams to not just think of selling, but how can we connect with everyone? And so as a women-led agency, we wanted to incorporate emotional intelligence to reach the audience more effectively. And I felt like if more women across the board were to lead businesses, we would be more hyper-focused on a kinder, more eco-conscious, and an effective way for humanity to financially thrive in our community. So what we're really good at, we build relationships through brand partnerships. And so we focus on giving brands voices across the board, and we connect the dots between one business to another. We hyper-focus on digital marketing and how brands and businesses, and down to every team player on the team, especially the leaders, to be at the forefront and at the center of their businesses, amplifying their voices and telling their stories along with their brands. We also do a lot of events and through customer experiences. And on top of that, we focus a lot on training and mentorship for women. So our services act as retainers. So we are from on-call to on-team, and with a lot of our clients, we actually act as an in-house agency. So it can scale from a part-time agency within a brand or business, all the way up to a fully integrated team working across the board with their customers and with their internal board. And these are just a few visual identities of products that we've worked on. We've worked on beauty, wellness, food and beverage, many technology apps, and TV stations and networks as well. And with this deck, the agency, ABA-LA can share with you guys later on, and here you can click to see our case studies. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Brittany. And Brittany, as our youngest business on the panel today, we welcome you to the entrepreneur community. You know, it is a very tight-knit community, you know, particularly here within the members of the ABA. So we welcome you. And it's really great to see mission-driven businesses as well. So thank you. Next, we'll move to our final presenter, Sanjay from Trinus Corporation. Sanjay, you're up. And don't forget to unmute.
All right, can you hear me, guys? Good?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Aura, and really nice presentations, Paul and Brittany. So the topic is future-proof your business. And so what I wanted to do very quickly is, well, once my clicker works, there we go. A quick introduction about Trinus, the company I founded and work for. So we are a professional services company that specializes in data-driven digital transformation. And so what that means is we're using digital technologies to enable companies to evolve, to change, to transform their businesses with the processes that they use internally, changing them, helping them change them with a constant focus on using data to inform decision-making and using technologies, evolving technologies to enable that transformation. So things like cloud, AI, and IoT, and so on. We are dual shore, so we have most of our businesses focused in the US. We have a large offshore capability, which is the photo on the right, top right, that we run out of India. And the bottom right photo is the one that causes me a lot of pain right now because it's sitting empty. It's an office space in Pasadena that's sitting empty because you've been working from home all this while. But anyway, let me get to some of the core points I wanted to make in the presentation today. So when you look at these statistics, really what comes through when you think of the average age of a company on the S&P 500, it has gone down from 60 years in 1950. So 70 years ago, a company sat on the S&P 500 for 60 years. Now they sit on the S&P 500 for 20 years. You look at the significant disruptions that are expected by companies, by C-suite members, and 68%. And this is, by the way, all this is from before the pandemic. So everything you see here is pre-pandemic, and now you think of how things are going to get even more interesting. So what this tells you essentially is that every 2 weeks, one company is dropping off the S&P 500. What it also tells you is every industry is prone to disruption. And existential or not, disruption is happening. Even last mile, labor-intensive industries are not safe. So going back to the topic, can you future-proof your business? I don't think so. There is no such thing as future-proofing a business. And the stats you see on this slide pretty much tells you that. And these are big companies, smart companies, companies with a lot of resources, right? What is constant is change. And what is even more constant is the increasing rate of change that we see in the world. So as a leader in your organization, I would say your responsibility is to constantly ask what your customers will need as their business evolves, and how will you position your business to serve those needs. And really the same market forces that influence large businesses also impact small businesses. A case in point, something that we've seen over the last 25 years now, is the book selling business and how it went from a mom and pop bookstore, corner bookstore business to one single company that pretty much dominates that industry. So when you're looking at your business as a small business, perhaps, you should be thinking in terms of evaluating a business as far as your internal and external processes, your employee bench strength. What kind of strengths do you have in your internal organization, in your resources? What kind of technology capabilities do you have today? And what do you need to transition as you seek out new ways to evolve and change and grow and transform your company? And finally, what kind of data analytics foundation does your company have today? And therefore, when you look at the gaps, where is it that you need to be? So as a CEO of your organization, if you're a CEO in if your company and listening in, one question I would pose to you is to ask you this: how much of your time is dedicated to understanding technology advances? And how can you leverage those technology advances in your business? The second question I'll ask you, something for you to noodle over, is do you have a process in place to evaluate your business relative to the market? Do you do any strategic planning in your business? How do you incorporate the use of technology into your strategic planning? And then finally, another question I have for you is what technology, think about this, what technology are you using today that you didn't 5 years ago, right? And it'll help you start figuring out, or it'll help you start understanding that change and the rate of change that I was talking about earlier is going to impact every business, including yours. And it's very important for you to do that because you're already in your business today. But the person who is starting in your industry is making those technology investments that you are not. And he or she will beat you at your game. So Brittany, for example, a year old, I'm betting she's invested and she's investing in a lot of technology that will help her grow her business in the space that she is in. So, with disruption, we've heard a lot of talk about digital transformation, which is really, before I get into a little bit of that, let me just lay out a definition. And this is a definition I came up with because I was looking for a way to frame digital transformation. And I found a lot of very academic descriptions. So I thought I'd come up with my own. And so my definition of digital transformation is the use of digital technologies to radically change how businesses stay relevant, thereby creating superior value for their customers and stellar outcomes for all their business stakeholders. So let's go to that word relevant. So we saw the statistics as far as the S&P 500 list goes. And if you have to stay relevant, you have to think in terms of how do you transform your company using digital technologies. When you think in terms of the way you relate with the customers and what you provide to them, you should be thinking in terms of what is that value creation you bring to the table that allows them and that encourages them to engage with you and your business. And then finally, if you have, and I'm sure you do have multiple stakeholders in your business, there are shareholders, maybe it's you, family, friends, maybe it's outside investors, that are your employees, your partners who also depend on your business as well. And then finally, your customers too. So when you're talking of digital transformation, you're thinking in terms of applying those digital technologies. I've listed a few of them here. Software as a service. Over the last 10, 12 years, we've seen an incredible growth in compute capabilities, in cheap storage, in a proliferation of data, which then leads to a lot of possibilities with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So when you're generating a lot of data, and whether it's you generating the data in your business or your customers that want to leverage that data, how can you bring that data to bear to change the way you do your business, from going from a gut feel, going from that a subjective decision-making process to enhancing it with an objective approach based on data. So you have to be thinking in terms of how do you introduce data, if you're not already, into your decision-making in the company? How do you take all the data that exists in all the applications, all the systems that you have, and be able to bring it together into information that delivers value in terms of the insights that you get out of it, the insights which then drive the actions that you take, and ultimately the transformation that you are trying to accomplish both within your business and in relation to your ecosystem, your customers and your partners in your supply chain. So I'll leave with a quick example of what, for a CEO or a COO, what a typical dashboard will look like if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of your business. So this dashboard, it's a made-up company. It's a venture-funded company. And I'm sure Paul can relate to some of this from his .com day stories. So this is a company that a CEO is tracking not just the top line and the expenses, the margins. He's also tracking things like the velocity rate of lead generation, how much lead generation is happening and what's the velocity, how fast or how much are you increasing that lead generation. What is the ratio of your LTV to CAC? LTV is lifetime value of a customer. CAC is customer acquisition cost. So how effective are, this one ratio, for example, how effective is your ability to gather, to bring customers, new customers in and keep them as customers for a long period of time? So as this number goes up, your ability to bring customers in and keep them long goes up, which means you have more and more top line and profitable growth that potentially can happen. Because this is a venture funded company, you also track burn rates, how much cash are you burning every month, and what runway do you have based on the cash that's available in your bank account. So this is an example of a dashboard that a venture funded company would look at perhaps, but each of us in our businesses should be looking at a dashboard for our business. We should be looking at metrics that tell us exactly what the health of the business is, what the health of the organization is, and then be able to make the changes, adjustments, or transformations that need to be made. And with that, I'll hand it back to Dennis and Bianca.
Thank you, Sanjay. And I loved your definition. You've got to trademark it, copyright it. You've got your own now.
Yes.
With that, we'll jump right into questions. And Sanjay, you said something very interesting that I thought you almost challenged the notion of being able to future-proof your business, and it's an interesting concept. And I think it really speaks to the difference between risks and uncertainty, right? And when risks turn into uncertainty. And I happen to be in a grad program now, and we're talking a lot about this, and one of my courses, and we know that risk are when the outcomes are known, right? And the probabilities associated with them are also known. And in our training and schooling and whatnot, we learn how to manage those risks. But uncertainty is very different, right? Uncertainty, the outcomes are unknown and the probabilities are unknowable. So it puts us in a very different place, right? It makes us very uncomfortable, frankly. And we've got to, kind of figure that out. Any more thoughts from any of the panelists on that notion?
So, risk and uncertainty are part and parcel of not just these days, not just any business, as you've seen, because there are, with all the planning you would have done at the end of 2019, who would have thought come 2020, come January, come February, that your entire playbook would have to go into the garbage bin? So no matter what planning you do, no matter what probabilities you calculate out, there's always uncertainty, I think, and that's been proven this year, of course. the question always becomes from a business owner standpoint, if you're a small business, is how do you mitigate risk? So the key word there is mitigation of at least the known risks. And secondly, understanding what the known unknowns are. At the beginning of 2020, we didn't know what the unknown unknowns were, which was the pandemic. But then what are the known unknowns? We have to know what the box we are working within. What is that the boundaries that we know, and what is it that outside the boundary that we can perhaps get some inkling of? And a lot of that is done through connecting with your customers at a deeper level, connecting with the various stakeholders in the customer organizations, with your partners, to understand, get a pulse on, get a finger on the pulse of what's happening there, and how does it relate to your business? How can it impact your business? And what kind of opportunities it can generate for your business as well. So risk is not just bad. Risk also has a flip side as a reward. So the question is, how do you translate, how do you understand and uncover those risks? How do you understand the uncertainties? And then how do you take some of those and be able to translate those into opportunities? So this is a constant, it's a 24/7 job. Every business owner, every business person has to go through. And there's no simple answer, unfortunately, but that's the nature of the beast. And some of us enjoy being in that game.
That's the gamble you take, right? Being an entrepreneur. Thank you, Sanjay. I want to also offer out to the audience, if there are any questions that you all have, please type them in the chat. And I do see some are coming in, so I'll read them off. What are some examples of technology you can acquire now to stay ahead or catch up to changes in how businesses work? Any thoughts from the panelists?
I'll let Paul go and then I'll jump.
Well, there are a lot of popular tools that help you engage with customers, because I really feel like, I know in my presentation I keep kind of bringing up that same point about keeping your customers, engaging with them. So I think that kind of is very crucial to probably the most crucial part of at this moment in time anyways. And that is being able to engage, keep track of, and take care of your customers. So there are lots of software out there, but some of the ones that are probably more popular these days, HubSpot, you probably heard of it. Like, that can be hooked into your website, and it can kind of help you plan and organize engagement customers. So that I kind of feel like it's one of the most important thing. It's like software that starts with the customer side.
So just to tack onto that, to what Paul said, some of the things you can look at, and really, if you're going to be in a mode where you're trying to first survive and then thrive, I would say start with some of the simple things within your organization. You look at a communication and collaboration tools. What kinds of tools are you using? And particularly since you're working from home, you and your employees are working from home, and your colleagues are working from home, you have to think in terms of what those tools are that enable you to collaborate and communicate seamlessly. And then you extend that out to your customers and your partners. So we've always been, not always, but I would say for a significantly long time, been standardized on Microsoft's Office 365 platform. And last year, we in fact started implementing the entire suite. So Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive and so on and so forth. So we have essentially transitioned the entire organization to a Microsoft. I'm not advocating for Microsoft. I'm just telling you what I'm using today. These are the tools we're using in our day-to-day in communicating with our internally as well as with our external stakeholders, our customers and our partners. And then we're using a lot of cloud applications. So we have moved up, several years ago, we moved away from our own servers, our own internal servers to cloud essentially. So we've been a cloud company for a very long time. And what it has proven now more than at any time in the past is that having that platform, a cloud platform, actually allows you to be agile and to scale and to transform or change those costs, those fixed costs into variable costs, so that you're not left exposed when business all of a sudden changes, as it has over the last several months, and you're held down with a lot of fixed costs. So those are some of the things I would add to that.
I just wanted to add to that too, Aura. As a startup and as one of the younger companies, there are a lot of things that you can do that don't cost much money. And, we are a small and nimble team, especially going through this pandemic. What really helps save our agency and our communication with our clients is being on platforms like Google Suites. From scheduling meetings with our clients, having video conferences, using the Google Docs and Excels, etc., where you can make comments and schedule meetings with your clients, so that way they can come in, they can provide their input, and adding into that, our team could see those comments pretty much right away. And so if you apply a platform like Google Suites that doesn't cost too much for a small team and with your clients, you can really just do it from anywhere, essentially. And especially now during the pandemic, it is all very remote. And so that's a very important piece that really saved our agency. And then the other piece I would also add is using, management tools online. So that way, we have gone through so many different management tools, and more recently we started using one called Notions, and Notions has really helped us to create small web pages or web-like pages, so that way we can creatively do our strategic plannings, because as an agency we constantly have to come up with creative strategies for our client, and there are limiting factors, there are limiting things that without being in the same room together, we had to really implement. So Notions is one of them. We work with a lot of also web developers and through technology, we have to use Figma. So I do recommend, even before this pandemic, that like Sanjay said, moving everything on the cloud. That way you don't have to do that when this happens, that you're already prepared, you're already scaled to do that with your team, your clients, and it just really helps overall.
I want to add a few more things to that. In my presentation, I mentioned about digitizing your information, digitizing your knowledge. That not only helps you as an organization train your employees, but it also helps you disseminate information to your end users and your customers as well. Some of the tools I find helpful for that is a software called Loom. Another one is called Screencast. Those basically allows you to capture, let's say, your screens, and you can create a video of it, make it into like an instruction video. So again, like those are ways that you can document your processes from all the way as well as your knowledge, so that you can transfer as well as even market, right?
That's fantastic. I think we have to get some of these tools listed in the chat. I think there are a scale of different options that are out there, that some are low cost and some are upper tier and everything in between. And I think every business now, if you don't already have a communication tool or some sort of management tool, you need to get one, because we're all working from home now. We're all working remote. And we don't know how long this will last, right? Even though our states are opening up, but we need to stay connected. I want to ask a question about connectivity and customer engagement. Given all that's happening in the world, we've got the pandemic, we have the economic crisis, we have social unrest all over the world, and then the emotional trauma that I think everyone is going through. We're trying to figure out and balance, whether they like it or not or realize it or not, they're trying to balance it all. How do you all stay engaged with your customers without being tone deaf to everything that's happening? How do you shift your messaging if you do?
So for me, it's been setting up short phone calls. Nothing works quite like a virtual pumping the fists, if you will. And so setting up 15-minute phone calls with, and not just customers, with the entire ecosystem, if you will, right? Our partners, our people that we interact with that are, I would call them business associates, that may have nothing to do with our business, but who can provide insights to us. So setting up these phone calls, I think that's the old-fashioned and probably the most important way. We want to hear, we are social animals. We want to hear people's voices. We have to interact with them. If we cannot do that in person, we can definitely talk to them on the phone. Certainly that is one, and especially if you can add a video and see people's faces and see the body language, and that helps tremendously. See a new haircut, for example. Those kinds of things do help to get connected, to stay connected. And I think a couple other points I would make here is one and I think Paul referred to this earlier as well, is that if you do have resources that that are available in your organization, how can you leverage that to deepen a relationship with a customer, or how can you use it to open a new door for yourself with a new customer? And so there's some of the tactics you can use to broaden that engagement in your existing customer base, as well as with new customers. And then finally, I would add, and this probably goes back to some of the things Brittany has been saying, as well as Paul, I think, is you have to go and rework your sales and marketing playbook. So some tools that Paul mentioned and Brittany mentioned, in terms of kind of hooking them up to your website and so on, but really just stepping back a little bit more and reworking your marketing and sales playbook and saying, okay, what is it that I need to do differently? And using your ecosystem. Paul mentioned EO. There are a bunch of other groups like that can help you, bounce ideas off, pick up new ideas, pick up new, people's brains for ideas. So.
Yeah, well spoken, Sanjay. I really don't have a lot to add to that. I think it's still relative. I mean, the pandemic hit us like for a couple of months, but for me, a lot of the day-to-day communication with our customer really hasn't changed, really hasn't stopped. We've always been using the phone. In fact, actually, with the pandemic, we actually have an excuse to use Zoom a little bit more. So we actually see more face-to-face. So ironically, for some of my customers, I actually see their faces more often than I did before, which is just through phone. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Funny how that works, right?
Yeah, it's ironic. Yeah.
In fact, I think that's, because of the work from home, people have saved a lot of time on commuting, and therefore they have some time available to talk to people.
Yeah.
I would add to just that shortly. I think checking in with your team members, to that question, checking with your team members and your clients, and having those conversations is really important to make sure that you hear your team members and you hear your customers first, and then tuning in to what's happening and listening to reliable news sources is really important too.
Perfect. And I'm looking at the time, Dennis. You give me the signal on keep going. One more question. Okay, I have one more question I'll ask, and let's let this be kind of our final thoughts and our wrap up question for everyone. If you can give any advice to ABA members of any size, any scale, what would that be in 30 seconds?
Okay, 30 seconds. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
All right, so 30 seconds. Keep your ears to the ground, right? I think for me, again, I'm speaking for myself mostly, is having groups such as ABA and EO really helps. It helps me keep the ears to the ground, because with all these things going on, just as a person, as a business, you can't do it all. So you really have to draw on a network of people to support you and be able to not only bounce ideas, but basically they are in turn your feelers and your sensors in the marketplace. So they in turn feed you back that information, and you also in turn share your information. So that sharing is really critical, especially in this time. So that's the biggest thing that I have to say.
I think for me, it's just pivoting fast. Don't be so tied down to things that you, like a playbook or something that you created that you're like, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I have to stick to. You have to just pivot, you know, and especially what's happening now. So pivoting fast is, I think, a really big and important one that I've had to do.
So for me, I think it is the message or the thought I have is this has been a tough time, but it's also an opportune time for ABA members, my colleagues essentially, to step back perhaps and say, is the business you are in, is it energizing you? And you have to ask this question, right? Is your business energizing you? Is it impacting you and those around you? Does it reward you? And finally, does it create some transformation with you and within you? We've been brought to this point where it has given us perhaps the opportunity to even step back and ask us questions of ourselves, and really to help us figure out to be able to answer Brittany's point, which is pivot is great. How do I do that? Why do I do that? Where do I go? Where do I begin? And so perhaps asking these questions will help you figure out those answers. Think through those questions and help you figure out those answers and say, this is what I think I can change my business. This is where I think what I can do to really be an impactful business for myself, for my employees, for my partners, for my customers.
Perfect. Thank you. I want to thank all of the panelists for sharing their wisdom, sharing their insights, sharing their experience. It's been a fantastic panel. I do see that we have more questions coming in the chat. We'll try to get those answered offline, if that's okay. Thank you all to the audience members for participating. I do want to leave folks with one little quote that I came across and I found, and it speaks to a lot of what we talked about today, and specifically some of the remarks that Sanjay has made. I heard this quote first by Rahm Emanuel, President Barack Obama's former chief of staff, and I believe Winston Churchill also said it. The quote is, never let a serious crisis go to waste. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. And what's meant by that is, now, when you're in a crisis, you now have an opportunity to do things you thought you could never do before. So in every type of adversity lies an opportunity. So with that, I turn it back over to Dennis, and I thank you for this opportunity to moderate this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aura. I really appreciate you and all the panelists' time for this past hour to spend with us, to kind of enlightened us. Of course, we can kind of go on because there's so many things as businesses that continue to kind of deal with right now. There's so many things, right? Managing their employees, trying to figure out payroll right now and figuring out their buildings as well, right? There's a whole lot where you need to juggle with. But I do appreciate all of you and really the advice that you've given, and just kind of help that we continue to kind of help and share the knowledge around. I think sometimes from a little idea, though may not be perfect, it gives you some thoughts, right? From there, you kind of figure it out, okay, turn it in your head to come up with something better. And I think that's why these community-based organizations like ours continue to do, and hopefully that will motivate you in terms of your journey and entrepreneurship. I'll leave that to Bianca to close out our event because she has some great announcements for us. Bianca.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. So thank you, Aura, and thank you to our panel for leading this. Our big announcement is the winner of our Southwest Airline international round trip ticket is for Cindy Pham from Social Medusa Marketing. Congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. Not to forget, and again, not to miss, Dennis mentioned, Let's Get Social and Social Distancing is happening on July 8th. We are giving away another international round trip Southwest Airline ticket for that. So please register. Do not miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of games, breakout rooms, nice surprises. So please be there on July 8th. Vietnamese Speaking Entrepreneurs is on July 15th at 1:30 p.m. Don't miss that as well. Just register in www.abala.org. Thank you once again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Brittany.
Work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you, Paul, Brittany.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Bianca. Bye.